So you were a high energy undergrad at Brown University when you first had your first attack. So maybe that's a good place for us to start. So tell us what happened. Yeah, just
Okay,
tell us what
sure.
happened.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I was a senior at Brown University. I seemed like I had everything going for me. I played varsity sports. I had a 4.0. I had, a gang of feisty friends, and I was headed to med school in the fall.
Yeah.
And then it was like a flip of a switch. And all of a sudden, as if some alien had abducted my brain.
Wow. And it presented as depression rather
Yeah,
than so it was widely misdiagnosed as you
exactly. Yeah,
as you
yeah.
as you sought treatment. But you went from the very top in terms of your mood and your achievement. You're a super achiever. You come from a super achieving family. You have super achieving friends,
Right.
and everybody was there for you, giving you good advice, trying to some of the advice that well-meaning people gave you, would have been logically you were suspicious, but you were desperate, and
Yeah.
you had to try everything that was suggested, and still you were like running into a brick wall. So tell us more about the way it presented, the depth of this depression that you struggled with.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, yeah, it's almost like, imagine a plane that suddenly loses altitude and spiraling down to crash in the earth. I was, living a pretty blessed and high achieving life. And then all of a sudden, my brain stops working. And suddenly I can't get out of bed. I'm too scared to see my friends. I can't navigate my way to class. I don't know where I am. And nothing's working. I'm a science major pre-med, and I can't add 2 + 4 without getting confused. And you can imagine, I was 21. It was absolutely terrifying because nothing like this had ever happened to me before. I was like, my brain flipped off.
Yeah.
And along with that, the incapacity to do anything, and then the severe crippling depression, which was part of that whole dynamic.
And how long did that first depression last?
The first one for me lasted about 7 months, unrelenting. And then in subsequent years and years to come, on average, 9 months, where I would have these deep, 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 dark, difficult depressions. And I did a TED talk, David, which I think you may have seen, but in it, one of the things that I wanted to really describe is what I call broken brain, because I think when people see someone depressed, they think about emotion. The person is sad, so let's fix their emotion. But for me, it manifests as the brain is not working. So simple tasks like doing dishes or sorting laundry or choosing peanut butters in the grocery store become Herculean impossible. So it's very, very debilitating.
Yeah, and often depression really starts with a loss or something like that. But you had nothing like that in your life. It just had a life of its own. It
right.
was definitely a biochemical issue. And
Genetic,
yeah. So how did you genetic? There's a genetic component, and
for sure.
yeah. And so how did you get out of it after that first 7 months of that first attack?
Just kind of by what would I say? I'm not sure. Serendipity. Nothing really worked. I went to a therapist, friends recommended. There wasn't any, what's the opposite of relentless? There wasn't any break for me. But then I ended up with this geographic cure. I had a colleague from roommate in college, and she was going off to Israel, and she said, come. She was doing a program like Peace Corps. And I went. And something about that shift, or maybe it was just coincidence or timing or the light in the Mediterranean or something. And I started to feel myself back again.
Yeah.
I was better for about a year at that point.
Yeah, wonderful. So you've always been a very high energy person, but you didn't have the mania that clinicians would typically look for. And so that was also another reason why they really didn't identify it as a version of manic depression. And I guess, we're going to get to the book that kind of saved you and the person that saved you. How long had Bipolar II been a known entity?
So forgive me for being a little bit detailed about semantics, but I think it's important helping people understand the distinctions. What I have wouldn't be called manic depression, because manic depression is at an extreme end of bipolar I, what we now know as a bipolar spectrum. So when we think manic depression with extreme highs and extreme lows, that's currently known as bipolar I. And that's easy to identify, relatively easy, if someone's going all-night sprees and irresponsible behaviors, dangerous behaviors, things that you kind of imagine that goes with manic. In my case, I didn't exhibit mania, and so many people like myself with bipolar II or other brains where they're living with that are on somewhere in the bipolar spectrum can have bipolar without extreme mania, maybe hypomania, maybe high energy. But because you're not going to go to the doctor when you feel good.
Right.
And if you're not showing irresponsible behaviors, not doing anything to make your family concerned, you just look like any other high energy kid that went to my school.
Yeah.
And it took literally 25 years, 5 psychiatrists and 7 medications before I got the diagnosis that saved my life, which was bipolar Roman numeral II.